What's
football, some men in
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Egan51 React. We back at it again, man, with another so fresh and so clean video. Today we got how Joan, whatever that surname is, brought Barcelona back from the dead twice. That's an my bad, y'all. My bad. How we brought Barcelona back from the dead twice, bro. That is an interesting title, right? Let's check it out, man, without further ado,
inherent
man.
glory. Others walk straight into fire. In March 2021, in football,
what?
some men inherit glory. Others walk straight into fire. In March 2021, Barcelona, once the beating heart of football, was barely breathing. The books were bleeding. The club was over $1.3 billion in debt. The wage bill was unsustainable. UEFA club was over once the beating heart of football.
They were in
barely
debt?
breathing. The books were bleeding. The club was over $1.3 billion in debt. The wage bill was unsustainable. UEFA was circling. La Liga was enforcing.
Nah. Let me lock in for this vid, bro. What the fuck? 1.3 billion euros, bro? Oh my
ever
fucking
wear
god,
their shirt
bro.
was slipping through their fingers. Gone
What
were
were
the
they
nights of
doing?
tiki-taka and treble dreams. The stadium was silent. The fans were furious, and the boardroom was filled with empty chairs and blame.
This treble. I watched the last video, bro. It wasn't explaining anything about a treble. What trophy is that? But I think I saw a piece of information somewhere, bro. I don't know where it was. I think it's all the trophies combined. Then you win a treble trophy. Can somebody explain it to me in the comments?
It was no
bro,
club.
please?
It was a ruin, a ghost of what had once conquered Europe. And then he returned not as a savior, but as a man willing to face the storm. Older, sharper, and far more aware of what it would take to resurrect the club again. He walked
He stole the money, bro. Right? What do y'all think, bro?
back into the presidency with no easy promises.
Then he came
there was
back
no
for more,
Messi
bro?
to build around, no transfer budget to spend, no time to play politics, just chaos, deadlines, and a desperate need
So
for
Messi
leadership.
carried
But Laporta had one
Barcelona
thing no one
is
else did.
their whole
Memory. He had done
career,
this
bro.
before.
His
He had
whole
rebuilt
career.
once, and he believed it could be done again. Most men wouldn't step into a burning building. He walked in smiling, and what followed wasn't a miracle. It was a plan. This is the story of how Joan Laporta brought Barcelona back from the dead, not once, but twice. Before he resurrected Barcelona from financial ruin, Joan Laporta had already brought it back from despair once before. He was not born into football. He was a lawyer by trade, a politician by instinct, and a Catalan nationalist by conviction. With a law degree from the University of Barcelona and a successful legal firm under his belt, Laporta had built his reputation in courtrooms and campaign offices, not locker rooms. But he was also a lifelong socio, a fan, a member, a believer, and deep down he carried a vision that Barcelona could be more than a club. It could be a movement.
So
he
actually had the passion
was
for it.
directionless. Real Madrid were winning titles and stealing headlines. Barcelona hadn't won a major trophy in 4
Was it that time that Ronaldo was there at Real Madrid?
years. The atmosphere was heavy with failure, and the fans had lost faith. Laporta wasn't the favorite to win the election. He wasn't the most experienced, but he was the boldest. His charisma turned heads. His promises stirred hope, and his audacious pledge to sign David Beckham, though never fulfilled, lit up the city. He won. Unexpected. Signed David Beckham.
Who's that? Can somebody tell me?
Though never fulfilled, lit up
He
the
looks
city.
like a
He
superstar.
won
I can feel the
unexpectedly,
aura, bro. I can
unapologetically,
feel his
and
aura.
from day one, he began changing everything. Frank Rijkaard was hired as head coach. Ronaldinho arrived soon after. The smiling
Ronaldinho,
Brazilian genius
man.
would become the symbol of joy and revival. Laporta didn't just rebuild a
Inspirational.
team. He
That is
reshaped an
greatness
identity.
right there,
By
people.
2008, Ronaldinho's magic was fading.
The king.
Rijkaard was gone, and Barcelona stood at a crossroads again. Many expected a big-name coach to take the reins. Mourinho wanted the job. He even prepared prepared a presentation, but Laporta chose a different path. He promoted a soft-spoken former midfielder with no first division experience, Pep Guardiola. It was more than a gamble. It was a revolution. Guardiola didn't just inherit a team. He created an orchestra. He benched Deco. He
My bad,
released
Joan. I don't know
Ronaldinho.
these guys,
He
bro.
built the team around Xavi, Iniesta. He benched.
He sold Ronaldinho, the guy with the best footwork ever, behind Messi and Lamine Yamal. Yo, that is insane, bro.
Deco. He released Ronaldinho. He built the team around Xavi, Iniesta, and a 21-year-old named Lionel Messi. And the rest is football scripture.
W
In just
move.
4
W
seasons,
move.
Guardiola's
For
Barcelona
that to
won
work out.
3 La Liga titles, the Champions League trophies, 2 Club
Damn.
World Cups, 14 major trophies in total. But more than trophies,
Sheesh.
they redefined how the world saw football. It was tiki-taka. It was total dominance. It was beauty with bloodlust, art with ruthlessness. It was the greatest club-side football had ever seen. And none of it
Damn,
happens
look
without
at that,
Laporta's
bro.
trust. And a
Nice
young
ball
coach with a
movement.
radical vision. That decision, to bet on a memory, a philosophy, a promise, remains Laporta's greatest legacy. It wasn't just bold, it was prophetic. When Joan Laporta left the presidency in 2010, Barcelona was on top of the world. Pep Guardiola had just delivered the most dominant football ever seen. The club was united,
So Pep Guardiola is a GOAT coach?
respected, and feared. But success can be
And
fragile.
somebody tell me who Pep Guardiola is.
And in the years that followed, cracks began to spread beneath the surface. Sandro
Right.
Rosell took over, then Josep Maria Bartomeu. At first, it seemed like the train was still moving. Neymar arrived, Suarez followed. The MSN era was electric. Trophies were won, goals were flowing. But behind the scenes, the foundation was eroding. The club's identity was drifting. The boardroom became a battlefield. Transfers grew expensive and erratic. Neymar left for Paris in 2017, and the money from his sale was spent faster than it arrived. Over $400 million was spent on 3
I don't know, man. This just seems kind of sketchy to me, bro. Somebody stole the money somewhere, bro. Somebody stole the money
players.
somewhere.
None of them became the new Neymar. Meanwhile, the wage bill exploded, the squad aged, and a silent burden began to weigh heavier with each season. Lionel Messi's contract, the icon who had given everything to the club, had
He
now
left.
become its most expensive dependency. Then came the pandemic. Revenues collapsed, fans disappeared, and the financial mismanagement
Oh man, COVID was crazy. Yo, do y'all know COVID was like wait, what? 2019, 2020, 21, 22. 7 years ago, bro? Bro, that shit just felt like 2 years ago, bro, right? I ain't tripping, right? Is somebody relating to me? Or am I the only one, bro? Yo. Nah, bro, this is insane, bro.
of the past decade was exposed. Barcelona was no
COVID
longer
was
just
crazy,
in trouble. It was on life support. By
Someday,
2020, the
I'm gonna
situation was
tell my kids,
unsustainable.
bro,
The club's debt had
the time
spiraled past
COVID came, bro,
$1.3 billion.
I'm gonna sound like
La
a
Liga
fucking
imposed strict
veteran,
spending limits.
bro, who
Players were asked
survived.
to take wage cuts. Internal documents leaked. Scandals surfaced. Messi, broken and disillusioned, asked to leave. Bartomeu refused, but the damage was done. In October 2020, Bartomeu resigned, facing a vote of no confidence, institutional chaos, and the wrath of millions. What was left behind wasn't
Damn.
just a wounded club, it was a smoldering ruin. And somewhere in the shadows, Joan Laporta was watching. He hadn't spoken much in years, but he
What do they mean by ruin? Is it like the stadium? Or the was fucked up or what?
had seen
I'm gonna tell
enough. The club he once rebuilt had fallen again, only this time the fall was deeper, the wreckage wider, and the clock was ticking. So he did the
Oh my
only thing
God,
he knew
look
how
at
to
that
do.
pitch.
He ran again. This
Hello. My bad, y'all. I'm
time, there were no promises of superstars, no talk of dream signings, only one message: I've done this before, and I'll do it again. On March 7th, 2021,
I like
Joan
that type of
Laporta was
mindset,
re-elected
bro.
as president of FC Barcelona. The club was on fire, but Laporta had never been
The
afraid
fuck?
of flames.
Look at that
When Joan
football
Laporta
pitch,
returned
bro.
to FC Barcelona in 2021, they were
Hey, yo,
re-elected
what's
as
that?
president of I'll do it again. On March 7th, 2021, Joan Laporta was re-elected as president of FC Barcelona. The club was on
Is this how it look for real, bro? This gotta be fake, bro. Look at this football pitch, bro. What the fuck?
on fire.
Nah.
But Laporta had never been afraid of flames. When Joan Laporta returned to FC Barcelona in 2021, there was one promise that hovered over everything. Lionel Messi would stay. It wasn't a campaign strategy. It was a belief shared by millions.
Oh my God!
Somehow,
Messi
some
carried
way,
Barcelona
Laporta would find a solution.
Yo,
because if anyone could keep
Messi
Messi at the
gave
club,
it their name,
was
bro.
him. And for a few weeks,
Messi gave
looked
it
like
the
he would.
reputation, bro.
Messi had agreed to a new deal.
Messi literally
The fans
put
were
everyone on
optimistic.
his back
Even
and
Messi
carried
himself
them, bro.
looked ready to write the final chapter of his career where it all began. But then came the numbers. La Liga's financial regulations hit harder than expected. The salary cap had dropped dramatically due to the club's enormous losses. Even with Messi's proposed pay cut, even with every backroom deal in motion, the math didn't work. Barcelona couldn't register his contract. Laporta faced an impossible choice: bend to a league that offered no leeway or walk away from the greatest player in football history. He chose the club. On August 8th, 2021, Lionel Messi said goodbye to Barcelona. There were no boos, no banners, just silence, then sobs.
Like who? Like, come on, bro. Why even say that? Who the fuck wants to boo Messi, bro? You're a bum ass nigga if you want to boo Messi, bro.
Children
Calm
cried
the
in the
fuck
stands. Journalists wiped their eyes. Grown men hugged strangers. This wasn't just the end of a contract, it was the end of an
Sad,
era.
bro.
And standing on the other side of it was Joan Laporta.
Imagine
the
Messi
man
playing
who had
with
promised
Lamine
hope
Yamal,
and
man.
delivered
That would
heartbreak.
be
Some
dope.
called it betrayal.
That
Others
would
called
break
it
numbers.
bravery.
That would
because
feed
Laporta
families,
knew the
bro.
truth. Keeping Messi would have meant sacrificing the future. It would have delayed the reckoning, not solved it. And for the first time in decades, he made the decision to put the institution before the idol. It hurt, it divided, but it was necessary. And behind closed doors, while the cameras moved on, Laporta began again. This time without the player who had defined everything. He didn't inherit a team, he inherited ashes. But sometimes to rebuild a dynasty, you have to let go of a god. With Messi gone and the club in financial ruins, Joan Laporta faced a question no president should ever have to answer. How do you rebuild a club that can't even afford to register a player? The answer? You gamble. He called them economic levers. To some, they were a masterstroke.
Wait, what? Gamble? He went to gamble with the club's money? No! Yo, that is insane,
Financial
bro.
heresy. Laporta
Catch Bocanistic on this episode
Fucking ads,
of Beyond
bro.
the Sheets.
L ads, man.
Laporta didn't just cut wages. He didn't just renegotiate contracts. He began selling parts of the club itself. One piece at a time. 49% of Barca Studios was sold. A chunk of future television rights was handed over to 6th Street. Additional commercial assets were mortgaged in exchange for immediate cash. The critics howled, "You're selling the future."
So he's literally did he do drugs, bro? Something ain't adding up, bro. He did drugs or something, bro.
Reckless.
Or he
This
had a
isn't
gambling
sustainable.
addiction, bro.
But Laporta didn't flinch. Within months, over 600 million that had been injected into the club's bloodstream. The bleeding stopped,
Okay.
the register opened, and with money back on the table, Laporta moved fast. Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Jules
Lavender!
Campbell, Laporta
Lavender!
moved fast. Robert
Lavender? So he's W mans. Round of applause for Laporta, bro. W, bro.
Lewandowski,
Lavender
Rafinha,
raping her? He also signed raping
Jules
her. Who? A bag of chips?
Day, Christensen,
A half-eaten taco?
Frank Kessié.
What? The fuck is
It
that?
was Barcelona's most expensive transfer window in years, executed by a club that was supposed to be broke, and suddenly a club that couldn't breathe started
Where's
to
Lamine
roar.
Yamal,
The
man?
squad was revitalized.
Where's
The
my
fans
glorious
had hope
king,
again.
bro?
La Liga took notice. Europe watched in disbelief. Laporta wasn't just making transfers, he was buying time, buying credibility, buying momentum. Every signature was a risk, every presentation a public bet, but it worked. Barcelona topped the table. They became the best defensive team in Europe. Sometimes to
Okay,
save the club
Laporta.
you love, you have to break every rule you hate. And Laporta, once again, bet it all. And won when Joan Laporta let Lionel Messi walk. He didn't just lose a player, he lost a symbol, a living blueprint of what Barcelona once stood for. So he did
Fact,
the only
bro.
thing that made sense. He brought back another one, Xavi Hernandez, midfield orchestrator, La Masia graduate, and disciple of Johan Cruyff, returned in November 2021. Not as a legend, as a coach.
Did this
At
guy
the
play
time,
with
the team
Messi?
sat 9th in La Liga. The football was dull, the belief gone. Xavi wasn't experienced. He wasn't a proven winner from the bench. But Laporta didn't need proof. He needed alignment. Xavi came not just to coach, but to restore. The passing, the pressing, the principles, everything that once made Barca. At first, results were shaky, but slowly, something began to shift. Teenagers were trusted. Veterans were reorganized. The team climbed from 9th to 4th, then from 4th to 2nd. By 2022, Barcelona were contenders again. And in May 2023, they lifted the La Liga trophy, their first without Messi in 4 years. Laporta had pulled the levers, and Barcelona had pulled themselves out of the grave. It wasn't clean, it wasn't
Laporta,
elegant,
bro.
but it was necessary. It wasn't just about winning La Liga, it was about winning with identity. Players like Pedri, Gavi,
Austin Reeves!
all took center stage. The core was
And a
young,
few other
the
niggas,
system
I
was
don't know.
old, and it worked. Under Xavi, Barcelona became Europe's best defensive team. The goals weren't always flowing, but the control was back. The order, the unity, the Barca way. Laporta stood behind it all. Proud, patient, and relentless. He had hired a coach who spoke the same football dialect as the fans. A man raised in the DNA of the club, not just a manager, a messenger of memory. But football doesn't stop for sentiment, and Barcelona is a club that demands more. In the 2023-24 season, the cracks returned. The midfield struggled. Busquets was gone. Results dipped. The magic faded. No trophies, no spark, and no patience. Laporta watched it all, quietly, carefully, because while Xavi had laid the foundation, something else was now needed. He had built the house, but Laporta was ready to bring in someone to electrify it. By the end of the 2023-24 season, the fairy tale had faded. Xavi Hernandez had given the club its soul back. He had trusted the youth, rebuilt the midfield, delivered a league title, but Barcelona demands trophies, not tributes. No Copa, no Champions League, no spark. For Laporta, that was enough. He thanked Xavi, hugged him, and closed the chapter. Then came the replacement. Not sentimental, not safe, strategic. Hansi Flick, a German tactician, ruthless in detail, obsessed with structure. A manager who didn't grow up in La Masia, but who knew exactly how to weaponize its potential. Laporta didn't hire a poet. He hired a mechanic, and the results were immediate. Every player leveled up. Koundé became a wall. Christensen returned sharper. Fermin Lopez became fearless. Pedri, finally fit, looked reborn. Lamine Yamal, just a teenager.
That nigga is one of the biggest reasons why him and Lamine Yamal, bro, and raping her and Lavender. The four of those niggas are my top 4 players, bro. Yo, as of right now. And Lamine Yamal is second as of all time, bro. Whew. Yo, this is just hard.
Was now playing like a veteran. This wasn't a
revolution.
Me happy, makes me smile. It was a recalibration.
Look at my king. Look at Lamine Yamal, man.
And Lamine Yamal.
Look at Lamine Yamal, man. That is greatness right there. Feed your lives. We are breathing the same air that guy is breathing, bro. Can y'all believe? I still can't get it.
Playing better. They were playing like they believed they were
my
the
liver
best team in
shivers,
the world.
bro.
It wasn't
Holy
just
mama
coaching.
pajamas,
It was culture
bro.
shock. The squad stopped relying on nostalgia. They started imposing authority. Press harder. Think faster. Win ugly if you must. But when Laporta had
look at
made
the aura,
switch,
man.
Barcelona was never just a football club. It was a
Pure
symbol
aura,
of identity, of pride, of power. And Joan Laporta was never just a president. He was its architect, its caretaker, its engine. Now, he's planning his final act. By 2024, the pieces are all moving into place. The Spotify Camp Nou, a €1 billion cathedral of football, is nearly complete.
Are they sponsored by Spotify?
But a statement, a venue built for modern spectacle, global fans,
I love
and
to beat Travis Scott
nights.
in one of
the
their
Nike
reactions
deal
I did.
just signed is the largest in football history. 1.7 billion until 2038. 158 million arriving immediately. No penalties for poor sporting performance. No more desperation.
Okay,
Financial
he's smart,
normality
bro.
is no longer a dream. It's becoming reality. The youth pipeline is overflowing. Lamine Yamal, Pau Kubarzi, Fermin.
That's not how his name is said, bro. That's not how his name is said, bro. It's Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal. Don't make me come over there and give you a bitch ass backhand, bro. What the fuck do you think you are, bro? Damn, bro.
Lopez, Hector
Calm the
Fort,
fuck down.
teenagers playing like titans. The team is
Lamine
fast,
Yamal,
young,
man.
hungry. The manager is ruthless, and the president, he's setting the stage. Laporta knows timing, and he's been saving one last move. For one last night, the reopening of the Spotify Camp Nou is more than an architectural unveiling. It's a coronation. Laporta wants a crown jewel, a statement signing, a name that echoes. Erling Haaland, Florian Wirtz
There's that
or
Viking
Rafael
guy.
Leao, a player who, according to sources, would say yes with his eyes closed. This isn't just about transfers, it's
What?
about timing, symbolism, power. Laporta doesn't want to leave the
Q-bar.
presidency with applause.
There's that nigga
He wants to
Q-bar,
leave
but that
with
nigga has
silence.
some
The
tough
kind of
ass
silence
defense,
that comes
bro.
when something is
Facts.
done so perfectly, you don't know how to respond. He knows the next elections are coming. He knows the scrutiny will return. But here's the truth. He doesn't need to campaign. He doesn't need to convince. Barcelona today, financially stabilized, structurally modernized, and tactically revitalized, Laporta didn't just survive the storm, he built a kingdom in its aftermath, and now he's preparing to reopen its gates. With the whole world watching, Joan Laporta didn't just lead FC Barcelona, he rebuilt it. Taz, he stepped in when others stepped away. Once in 2003, when the club had lost its identity. Then again in 2021, when it had lost everything else. He let go of legends. He mortgaged assets. He made enemies, but he brought the club back to life with memory, with money,
Hey,
with
what is
risk.
this, man?
He didn't win by being the loudest. He won by lasting. Now with a new stadium rising, a team reborn, and a final move on the horizon, Laporta's legacy is nearly complete. He was never just a president. He was the man who refused to let Barcelona die.
Yo, WV, man.
Are we back?